I am super excited that you have decided to join me for another episode on the One Income Family podcast. Have you ever wondered how you're supposed to let God be in control when, in order to keep good money management practices, you need to plan for the future, which just puts you right back in control? Like, how are you supposed to release control and live and let God just be the one who guides us and takes us where we need to be when the steps that God tells us to take in the Bible put you right back in the driver's seat? Well, that is exactly what this episode is all about. This is something that has been on my heart and I have been pondering and praying about for a while now. And I'm not going to tell you that I have the cut and dry answer here, but I am going to share with you the thoughts that God has been sharing with me. It's time to learn how to be in control without being in control. Confusing, right? That's okay, because it is time for you to go grab yourself some coffee and a seat so that we can dive in. Do you find it hard to save or get out of debt? Are you constantly searching for ways to save money and live on a budget? Do you have big dreams only to be stopped by not sticking to your budget? Are you ready for financial freedom? Then you, mama, are in the right place. Welcome to the One Income Family podcast, where you will learn what it looks like to budget on one income, how to partner with God in your finances, how to budget in a way that's easy to stick to, and how to cut costs and save money, all so that you can start building wealth. It is my mission to equip you with these tools so that you can live in abundance regardless of the amount in your account. Hey, I'm Molly, a budget coach for stay-at-home moms, and I know what it's like to struggle on one income. I've lived paycheck to paycheck, relied on being frugal, and failed many budgets until I learned how to budget without tracking. This has allowed my family to pay off debt and build wealth all on one income. So, if you are ready for financial freedom, then go grab that stroller, plug in those headphones, and let's get to it. Hey mama, I hear you. Prices, they're rising. Money, it's getting tight. And the thought that you might have to go back to work simply to provide for your family is scary. So you work harder to be frugal, you work harder to stick to your budget, only to end up burnt out and overwhelmed. I feel that. I see you. And I have a question for you. Have you ever sat down and really looked at what your money is doing? At where your money is going? Because the answer isn't always frugality or the inability to stick to your budget, but rather could be that your budget is out of balance. Meaning you could have too much money tied up in your house or maybe in your car. Your lattes and subscriptions are not always the reason why you are struggling. So I want to offer free budget audits for the month of September. I want to help you figure out the steps you need to take to get from where you are to where you want to be. All you have to do to get a free budget audit is email me at mollybennell@gmail.com and let me know that you're interested in a free budget audit. Again, all you have to do is email me at mollybennell, that's MOLLY, B as in boy, ENELL, @gmail.com. And then we can work together and we can figure out what is going on in your budget so that you can continue to stay home and care for your kids. Alrighty, so how are you supposed to let go and let God be in control when the things that God tells you to do in order to have good money management practices are things that make you be in control, right? You have to decide what to do. You have to create a plan. You have to take action. Those are all things that you are in control of. And we sit here and we think and we wonder, how are we supposed to do that? How are we supposed to do these things that make us take action and be in control when at the same time we are trying to allow our faith muscle to grow and to be and to know that God is going to provide for us. Like knowing that he's going to provide for us and actually taking the action it takes to allow that to happen is so different. And sometimes it can be confusing and it can be a struggle. And that's why I have a little analogy or a story to kind of explain how God works in these situations, right? Like God has been sharing this with me. And like when it popped into my brain, I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And so I'm going to share that with you. I actually have two different examples for you. So the first one I'm going to share with you is imagine, and I actually never did this myself, but imagine that you are in driver's ed. You are in that car where you're on the side, where you are driving, you have the gas, you have the wheel, you have the brake, you have everything in control, right? Like you are driving the car. And then in the passenger side, you have the teacher who also has a brake so you can stop the car. Some of them might also have a steering wheel. I don't actually know because, again, I never took driver's ed. But when you think about that and you think about the fact that you are in the driver's seat and God is in the passenger seat, that kind of just helps you understand that you still have to be in control. You have to be in control in order to drive the car around, in order to turn the blinker on so that you can turn and let everyone know what's going on. The person in the driver's seat or the passenger seat is not going to do that for you. They are there to guide you, to tell you when to turn, to maybe slow down if you're not slowing down fast enough, right? But they're just going to simply be there as a guide, as someone to help you along your way. They're not trying to be the one who's 100% in control, because if you think about it, God doesn't want to be in control. He gave us free will. He gave us the option to choose what it is that we want to do. Whether we listen to him or not is another story, but he gave us the free will so that we aren't tied to doing his bidding. Like that's not something that he wants. He wants us to want to do the things that he wants us to do. He wants us to obey him lovingly and willingly, right? So when you are trying to create a plan, to create a budget with God, it's not, God, give me everything that I need to do. It's, I'm going to make a plan, right? We'll get into that a little further down the road. But I hope that really opens your eyes to it. So another example that I have is like parents and toddlers, which I'm sure as you get older, it kind of does the same thing. But I really thought and got the idea of toddlers because if you think about it, from infant to toddler stage, they go through so much in such a little time that you can see this happening, that you can see you are allowing them as they grow, as they get older, to do things that may get them hurt. Like when they're first learning how to walk and crawl, they're going to fall on their face. They're going to fall on their butts, right? It's going to hurt, but they're going to keep going and they're going to learn from it. You allow your child to be in control, and then they finally learn how to do it to where they don't need your help at all. Like walking is not something where you have to hold their hand to make sure that they stand up anymore with, right? Or how to talk and say things. Yeah, they might still talk a little funky because they're only 2, right? Or they're toddlers, but you get what I'm saying. You let them be in control until they learn how to do that, and then they no longer need you. They gain their independence. Now, you don't want to be 100% independent from God, right? Like you want to still rely on him to exercise that faith muscle so that when things come and things happen, when life goes awry, which is going to happen, you are able to lean on him and know that he is going to still provide for you, even if you get a pay cut, even if you have to move and you don't know how to do it. Like financially, it may not be there, right? God is going to be there. He's going to help you through this all, no matter the situation. And that is what I want you to get out of this, is that we are still to be in control. We are still to be the ones that decide what action we're going to take. but we need to allow God to guide us and to actually listen for his direction so that we can make our paths easier instead of harder, right? Okay, so what does it look like to be in control and allow God in while we are still in control, right? It's simply put a matter of your heart posture. Is your heart hardened to God? Is it opened? Are you allowing God to guide you and to change your plans and to give you direction so that you can go down a straighter path instead of one that's like super curvy, right? I don't want to go down a curvy path, but I can't tell you that I'm perfect and I 100% listen to everything that God says, right? I'm human. I make mistakes. I sin. It's the way of life. But I definitely make sure that I am open to hearing God as much as I can. And no matter how much it saddens me to say this, our hearts can be hardened to hearing God if we're not careful. So make sure that your heart posture is open to hearing God. It's also a matter of being flexible and letting go of your plans, not holding on so tight, like everything has to go exactly as planned, like to a T. Self-professed control freak here knows that it's not easy and that it's a lot easier said than done. But if you just let your plans be flexible, like it's written down as a guide so that you know what step that you want to take. It's not something where it's like you have to do this or else. I know a lot of things. I feel like this is something that's just now coming to me, but when we're younger, we kind of feel like when our parents tell us we have to do something or our teachers tell us we have to do something, it's like you do it or else. That's not the case. Like when we create our plans, when we sit down and we plan out, like if it's our money, if it's a vacation, if it's just something that we want to do with our life, it's just an idea. It's just a goal. It's not something that we have to do or else something is going to happen, right? Like I feel like that consequence vibe is just like really strong in us if we don't follow through. And maybe it's just pressure that we put on ourselves. But again, we want to release that pressure that everything has to be done exactly as we wrote it down, or else we're not good at following plans, right? Or else we fail yet again. But that's not the case. Like sometimes letting go of those plans means that you are going down a better path. It means that it wasn't the right path for you to take, and being flexible and allowing that to be your guide if you want to know the next step that you want to take, but it's not something that you have to take. Like there's no consequence that comes with you not following through on your plan. And that's life-giving. Like as I'm saying this right now, I feel weight coming off my own shoulders, right? It feels good. And so by being flexible and keeping your heart open, and when you hear God telling you to do something else, you know that it's okay to not follow that plan, right? Like if God tells you to go left and you wrote down go right, it's easy to say, okay, this is the next right step. Apparently mine wasn't the correct one. I'm going to go this way because it's better. It's the way God wants me to go. And it's going to make my future so much, I don't really want to say easier, but in a sense it is, because I didn't take a wrong turn that I have to go clear around a mountain to get back to the right path, right? Life is still going to be difficult, but the path is going to be shorter to get to where it is that you want to go. Okay, I hope that made sense, but you get what it is that I'm trying to get through. I hope and I pray. If not, shoot me an email and let's talk about it. So let's get into the nitty-gritty here of how to actually plan with God. Like, yes, we have the heart posture. We know what it looks like to be in control, but still being flexible and allowing God to morph our plans, right? So how do you actually sit down and plan with God? And I don't want to take credit for this because I did not come up with this. And I think I've actually done an episode on this before. But Christy Wright on Get Your Hopes Up podcast, on her podcast, she came out with this plan on how to plan with God, right? Like how to set goals and create a plan with God. And I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to warn you right now, but I will give you the gist of what she was talking about and how this really aligns with us being in control, but still allowing us to flex our faith muscle and let God tell us where we need to change directions or where we need to let go and allow God to really just do his work, right? So the first thing, you should know this by now, pray. Always pray to him. Let him know what it is that you're doing, why you're doing it. Yes, he knows the desires of your heart. Yes, he knows what you're going to say to him. But this opens up a wave of communication between your heart and his heart so that it's easier for him to get through into your brain and actually talk to you instead of trying to peel back all the layers of maybe a hardened heart that has happened because you're so used to doing everything by yourself instead of allowing him to join in with you. This just opens that way of communication, and it just really lets you set your standards, set your intentions on what it is that you're trying to create a plan for, right? And how you want that plan to be made with God instead of without him. Okay, so pray. Step 2, make your plans. Write it down. The steps that you hear God tell you, the steps that you think you need to take yourself, like what you say, what he says, put it down on a piece of paper, and then you have your plans, right? It's pretty simple to make a plan. Then you want to give your plans to God. You say, okay, this is the plan that I created. This is what I think I heard you say. This is what I feel like the direction I need to take is. These are the steps I'm going to take to get from point A to point B, whatever that may be. And you just give it to him and allow him to come in and partner with you and to change things where he sees fit, right? It's not like he's going to change it right then and there. It's going to be further down the line as you're taking action, right? Sometimes he will say, no, that's not the right thing. But you need to be open to hearing him so that when he does, you are able to make that shift. The funny thing, the best part of this whole plan is actually, and when Christy said this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. So after you give your plans over to God, you need to follow through on your plans. Like, if you don't hear anything from the Lord, the steps that you need to take are right there on your plan. If he doesn't tell you to change anything, you keep doing what you wrote down. You keep doing your plan. So it's not about just being open to hearing from God and expecting him to change something. If you're like, okay, God, what's my next step? And you've got it right there on the piece of paper because he's not telling you to do anything else, that's the step that you need to take. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. Like, continue doing the plan that you made together until he tells you to change it. And he may not tell you to change it at all, or he may tell you to change it from the very beginning. Like, that is the greatness of this. That is the goodness of God being able to allow us to be in control, to make these decisions, but still flex our faith muscle and allow him to tell us different along the way, and to allow us to believe that he is going to be there and to trust that he has got our back. He is going to take us down a simpler path as long as we are open to listen to him and to take that direction. That was like the biggest, best thing that I got from that I was super excited that I heard from Christy, and that's why I had to share this with you. But then, the last step is then to just change your plans when God tells you to. But that, we've kind of, that's been the recurring theme here, is to just allow God to come into your heart, to allow him to tell you to change your direction and be willing to do it, not because you have to, not because you're being forced to, but because you want to, and you want his help, you want his guidance, and you don't want to do it independently. I feel like the world has gotten so focused on being independent that we don't let anybody help us. We don't let our friends help us. We don't let our families help us. We try to do everything by ourselves because they're going to do it wrong, right? Speaking from my own personal experiences. But when we allow ourselves to be open to letting God take the direction, he's not going to take us down a wrong path. He's not going to take us down a path that's going to not get us to where we want to be. Now, does that mean it's not going to be easy? Yeah, I mean, there's going to be times where it's hard. There's going to be times where this path that he wants to take us is a harder path than the direction we want to go. It may mean that we have to maybe we have a mindset struggle we have to get through, or maybe we have some other obstacle we have to fight through. And the other way is avoiding that obstacle. Well, the avoidance is a lot easier than working through that obstacle. But that obstacle, once you work through it, is going to get you to where you want to go a lot quicker once you're through it, right? And it's going to build your character. It's going to build you into a better person of who you want to be and who God wants you to be, instead of who the world wants you to be. So just make sure that you keep that in mind when you sit down and you want to figure out how to, again, be in control without being in control. Just allowing God to provide for us and allowing him to help us even when we are still in control. Because again, that free will that he has given us is a gift. We have the choice to do what we want to do, and we can either make it easier by allowing God to help us, or we can make it harder and longer and a path that is down a winding road that just never gets you to where you want to be, right? God is going to get you there. Again, it may be more difficult at the time, but it's going to be the shorter path to where you're supposed to get to. Okay, so again, I want to just go over how to make a plan with God. It's essentially just pray, make your plans, give your plans to God, follow through on your plans, even when you're not hearing anything from God. And then when you do hear something from God, make a change, be flexible, be okay with allowing what it is that you were planning on doing to be changed into what it is that he is guiding you towards. And with that being said, I really pray that this has opened your eyes to, the struggle of how we're supposed to be in control, right? Of how we're supposed to still go out there and do these actions that put us in the driver's seat when we would really like to be just like Jesus, take the wheel, because obviously I can't do it right. Well, he is trusting us, just like as a parent, we gain trust in our children to do the right and proper thing. It's the same way between God and ourselves. As we grow in our faith, as we get stronger, he's going to step back a little bit so that we can really trust him and know what it feels like and be independent. Well, independent isn't the right word. I really need to figure out a different word, but we can still do what it is that God wants us to do without him holding our hands, essentially. Okay, so I want to touch on the fact that I am offering free budget audits for the month of September. I want to be able to help you figure out the steps that you need to take to get from where you are to where you want to be. And it's pretty simple. All you have to do if you want one of these is email me at mollybonnell@gmail.com just to let me know if you're interested, and we can get that set up for you. These calls are going to help you figure out what is going on in your budget. Where is your money going? Is it doing what it is that you want it to do? What are your goals? And is your money getting your goals, achieving your goals? That's what I'm trying to say. Is it doing what it's supposed to be doing, or is it doing what the world wants it to do, or its own little thing, right? So again, if you want to hop on a free budget audit, or even learn more about what a budget audit is, just shoot me an email at mollybennell@gmail.com and we can get started and get you down a path to where you're not stressing about tight money. Instead, you are confident that you will be able to provide for your family on one income. And with that being said, I will see you right back here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast. Before you go, I hope this episode has ignited a fire inside of you, and I pray that it creates long-lasting impact. Did you know that you too can impact other one-income families? All you have to do is leave a written review, and you help get the podcast in the hands of other mamas in need. You can also text this episode to that friend who is also knee-deep in the same kind of chaos as you and inspire them to make a change. Also, your review lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and that lights me up. I get so excited to hear from you. Another great way that we can connect, though, is through the One Income Family community over on Facebook. So after you're done leaving that 5-star review, head on over to the community where you will find other mamas working their way out of the chaos. You can ask your questions and connect with others who truly understand what you are going through. I cannot wait to connect with you in the community. Until then, I will see you right here next week on another episode of the One Income Family Podcast.